ever get that feeling? Like you start the day, your to-do list is a mile long, and by the end of it, you're like, wait, what did I actually get done? It's like you're on a treadmill, right? Putting in all this effort, but not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, I think that feeling of being busy but not productive is so common, especially
Yeah,
these days. It's like we're constantly bombarded with information and distractions.
totally. And it can be so hard to cut through all that noise and figure out what to focus on, you know?
Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. We're ditching the whole hustle harder mentality and looking at some really simple but effective habits that can actually boost your productivity at work. You ready for this deep dive?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so we've gone through tons of research for this, like articles on productivity tips, the whole morning routine sets you up for success thing, how being healthy actually helps you get more done, and even practical ways to make those good habits stick.
Right. And what's cool is that even though these sources are all coming at it from different angles, there are some key themes that just keep popping up. For sure. And they all kind of point back to the same idea. If you want to feel more productive and less stressed, you got to build a foundation of good habits, like how you organize your time, manage your energy throughout the day, even stuff like taking care of yourself physically. So that's what we're going to unpack today. We're pulling out the most impactful, easy to do habits from all this research so you can, feel more in control, get more done, and honestly be more successful at work. Ready to jump in.
Absolutely. Let's start with the basics, I guess.
Yeah.
Planning and prioritization, right?
Right. Planning. Yeah, that's huge. Every single source we looked at talked about how important it is to actually plan your day and not just like think it through, but actually write it down. That seems to be key.
It kind of makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
taking the time to think ahead and put everything down on paper, it brings a sense of clarity, like, okay, this is what I need to do today.
Yeah, like a roadmap for your day. I even saw this one tip. It was about making a jumpstart list. As soon as you wake up, write down the 3 most urgent tasks you need to tackle that day.
Oh, I like that. Setting your intentions for the day right from the start.
Exactly. And then there's the Eisenhower matrix. Have you heard of that one?
Of course. It's classic, right? Important versus urgent.
Yes. It's a really simple way to categorize your tasks. Helps you see what you absolutely need to focus on.
And what's interesting about that matrix is how it highlights our tendency to jump on the urgent stuff, even if it's not actually important in the grand scheme of things.
Right, like those little fires that pop up and distract you from the real priorities.
Exactly. So the matrix really pushes you to identify those tasks that are important but not urgent, the ones that contribute to your bigger goals but often get pushed aside. Spending time on those can really make a difference in the long run.
Now, what about all those random thoughts and distractions that pop up when you're trying to work? Like suddenly remembering you need to call the dentist or, oh, let me just quickly check Instagram.
Oh, tell me about it. My brain is a constant stream of random thoughts.
Right. But there's actually a strategy for that. It's called keeping a distraction list. Basically, anytime something pops into your head that's not related to what you're doing, just jot it down on your list and then immediately get back to your main task.
That's brilliant. It's like acknowledging the thought without letting it completely derail your focus.
Exactly. It's like, okay, brain, I hear you. We'll get to that later. But for now, back to work.
Now, for those of us who are juggling work and studies, there's this really helpful approach for setting daily study goals. It's called SMART goals.
SMART goals. Tell me more.
Yeah. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. It's a way to make your study goals super concrete and actionable.
Oh, so instead of just saying, I'm going to study today, you're actually saying, I'm going to spend an hour reading chapter 3 and then another hour outlining my research paper.
Exactly. It makes your goals way more tangible and gives you a sense of accomplishment as you check them off your list.
Okay, I'm loving these practical tips. And here's another one that really resonated with me. Make your to-do list the night before.
Oh yeah, that's a great way to clear your mind before you go to sleep.
Right. It's like you're getting all those thoughts out of your head and onto paper so you can wake up feeling more organized and less overwhelmed.
It's all about setting yourself up for success before the day even begins.
Okay, so we've got our plan for the day, we've prioritized our tasks, but what about those days when you just feel totally unmotivated? Like you sit down to work and just
We've all been there.
there.
Sometimes the hardest part is just getting started.
Totally. But there's this surprisingly simple but powerful habit that can help with that. It's literally called just start.
Just start. Sounds almost too simple.
I know, right? But hear me out. It's all about overcoming that initial inertia, even if it's just a tiny first step.
So like, if I'm dreading writing a big report, instead of staring at a blank page, I could just start by writing one sentence.
Exactly. Or create a very basic outline. Anything to get the ball rolling.
It's like the hardest part is often just pushing past that initial resistance. Once you get going, it's easier to keep the momentum.
Speaking of momentum, one thing that often gets overlooked is the importance of breaks. It can feel counterintuitive to step away from your work when you have so much to do, but trust me, breaks are essential for sustained productivity.
It's true. Our brains need time to rest and recharge. It's like any muscle. You can't just keep pushing it without giving it a chance to recover.
Right. And when you take breaks, you actually come back to your work feeling more refreshed and focused.
The research is clear on this. Regular breaks help prevent mental fatigue and can actually lead to more creative problem solving in the long run.
So don't feel guilty about taking a few minutes to step away from your desk every hour or so. Go for a quick walk, stretch, or just relax and let your mind wander.
It's not wasted time. It's an investment in your productivity.
Okay, so we've got strategies for planning, getting started, and taking breaks. But how do we make sure our efforts are actually focused on the things that are going to give us the biggest return on our investment?
That's where the 80-20 rule comes in. It's also known as the Pareto principle.
80-20 rule, that sounds familiar. Remind me.
Basically, it suggests that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts.
Whoa, that's kind of mind-blowing. So we should be spending most of our time on that crucial 20%.
Exactly. The key is to identify those high-impact tasks and really prioritize them.
So, like, if I'm a marketer, maybe that 20% is creating engaging content that attracts new customers, rather than, say, spending hours tweaking the font on my website.
Yeah, exactly. It's about being strategic with your time and energy.
Now, here's another habit that goes hand in hand with that. Finish one task at a time. I know it's tempting to multitask, especially when you're feeling overwhelmed, but the research suggests it actually makes us less productive.
It's true. When we try to juggle multiple tasks at once, our attention gets divided, we make more mistakes, and it actually takes us longer to complete everything.
So the key is to focus on one task at a time, give it your full attention, and see it through to completion before moving on to the next thing.
Not only will you be more efficient, but you'll also feel less stressed and scattered.
And as you get better at prioritizing your tasks, you'll also need to get comfortable with setting boundaries, like learning to say no to requests that aren't aligned with your goals.
Saying no can be tough, but it's such a crucial skill for protecting your time and energy.
Totally. It's not about being rude or unhelpful, it's about being strategic and making sure you're focusing on the most important things.
And being clear about your priorities actually earns you more respect in the long run. People appreciate it when you're focused and know what you're trying to achieve.
Now let's talk about energy management. Because productivity isn't just about managing your time, it's also about managing your own internal resources. And energy is a big one.
So true. We all have natural ebbs and flows in our energy throughout the day, and learning to work with those rhythms can make a huge difference in your productivity.
Absolutely. Like, if you're a morning person, that might be your prime time to tackle those complex, brain-intensive tasks. And if you tend to hit a slump in the afternoon, maybe that's a good time for more routine tasks or even a short break.
The Calm blog talked about these things called ultradian rhythms. They're basically natural cycles of higher and lower energy that our bodies go through every 90 to 120 minutes.
So the key is to kind of tune into your own body and figure out when you're naturally at your best.
Right, and then plan your day accordingly. Use those high energy periods to your advantage and don't try to force yourself to do demanding work when you're feeling drained.
Now let's talk about another major productivity killer, email. How many times a day do you check your inbox?
Oh, way too many times, I'm sure. It's like a constant distraction.
Right, and all those notifications popping up can really disrupt your flow. So the advice here is to set specific times throughout the day to check and respond to emails, rather than being reactive all day long.
Like maybe check it first thing in the morning, then again around lunchtime, and finally at the end of the day.
Exactly. That way you're dedicating focused blocks of time to email, rather than letting it constantly interrupt your other work.
And another tip that came up a lot was to aim to clear your inbox every day. I know it can feel overwhelming, but it's such a good feeling to start each day with a clean slate.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about how we mentally prepare ourselves for work, because our mindset can have a huge impact on our productivity.
For sure. I've noticed that when I take a few minutes to center myself before diving into work, I feel way more focused and productive.
Absolutely. Creating a pre-work ritual can be super helpful for getting into the right headspace.
Like what kind of things?
It could be anything that helps you transition from personal time to work mode. Some people meditate, others listen to music, go for a quick walk, read something inspiring.
I like the idea of a walk. Gets the blood flowing, clears your head.
Yeah, exactly. It's about creating a mental boundary between your personal life and work life. And then there's the power of positive affirmations.
Ooh, affirmations. I love those.
Right. It's about intentionally starting your day with a more positive and confident mindset.
The Calm blog had some good examples, like, today is a new chapter,
Mm,
or I attract supportive energy.
love those. It's about setting a positive tone for the day and reminding yourself of your capabilities.
And you know what else can have a surprisingly big impact on our productivity? Our physical workspace.
Oh, totally. A cluttered desk can lead to a cluttered mind, right?
Exactly. Taking a few minutes to tidy up your workspace can actually save you time in the long run.
Plus, it just feels so much better to work in a clean and organized environment.
And don't underestimate the power of going green. Adding a few plants to your workspace can boost your mood and even improve your focus.
And natural light is huge. Make sure you're getting enough of it.
It's all about creating a workspace that supports your productivity, both mentally and physically.
Now, we can't talk about productivity without mentioning technology, and specifically how we can use technology to automate those repetitive tasks that suck up our time.
Automation is a game changer. There are so many amazing tools out there that can help streamline our workflows.
Think about setting up email filters, using social media scheduling tools, or even things like Calendly or Doodle for scheduling meetings.
All those little tasks can really add up, so automating them frees up your time and energy for more important things.
And another thing we shouldn't overlook is the power of collaboration. Learning to delegate effectively can be a huge productivity booster.
It's true. We don't have to do everything ourselves. Sometimes it's more efficient to find the right person for the job and let them handle it.
Right. And it's not just about delegation, it's also about recognizing your own limitations and asking for help when you need it.
Totally. Trying to do everything yourself can lead to burnout and actually make you less productive in the long run.
So don't be afraid to reach out to your colleagues or your manager when you're feeling overwhelmed.
Now, let's talk about something that's often overlooked when it comes to productivity: taking care of our physical health.
It's easy to let things like exercise and healthy eating slide when we're busy, but they actually have a huge impact on our ability to focus and get things done.
It's true. When we take care of our bodies, we're also taking care of our minds.
Regular exercise is a no-brainer. It boosts our energy levels, improves our mood, and even helps us sleep better.
And don't forget about staying hydrated. Even mild dehydration can mess with our concentration and make us feel sluggish.
And what we eat matters too. A healthy diet gives us the sustained energy we need to power through our workday.
So ditch the sugary snacks and opt for things like fruits, vegetables, and lean protein.
Now, let's dive into some specific time management techniques. Have you heard of the Pomodoro technique?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I've never actually tried it. How does it work?
It's pretty simple, actually. You work in focused 25-minute intervals, followed by a 5-minute break.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's like breaking down your work into manageable chunks.
Exactly. And those short breaks help you stay focused and prevent mental fatigue.
I might have to give that a try.
Another helpful technique is task batching. It's basically grouping similar tasks together and doing them all at once.
So instead of constantly switching between writing, emailing, and making phone calls, you dedicate specific blocks of time to each activity.
Exactly. This helps minimize distractions and allows you to really get into a flow state.
Now, meetings can be a real productivity killer. Any tips for managing those?
Absolutely. First of all, be mindful of which meetings you actually need to attend. And for the meetings you do attend, make sure there's a clear agenda and objectives.
And I love the idea of walking meetings. It's a great way to get some fresh air and move your body while still being productive.
Right. It can be a nice change of pace, especially for brainstorming sessions.
Now, as the workday comes to a close, it can be helpful to take a few minutes for an end-of-day review.
Ooh, I like that. It's a chance to reflect on what you accomplished, identify any loose ends, and set yourself up for a productive tomorrow.
It's like closing the loop on the day and creating a sense of closure.
And when you're planning your tasks for the next day, make sure you're setting realistic deadlines.
Yeah, that's so important. Unrealistic deadlines just lead to stress and can actually make us less productive.
And finally, let's talk about the foundation of it all. Getting enough sleep. I know it sounds obvious, but so many of us are chronically sleep deprived, and it's wreaking havoc on our productivity.
It's true. When we're well rested, we're able to think more clearly, focus better, and handle challenges more effectively.
Aim for 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night. And make sure you're practicing good sleep hygiene.
Like what kind of things?
Establishing a relaxing bedtime routine, avoiding screens before bed, and creating a cool, dark, and quiet sleep environment.
Oh, and don't hit the snooze button. It actually makes you feel more groggy.
So, we've talked about a lot of individual habits, but how do we bring it all together? That's where the power of routines comes in.
Routines are amazing. They help us automate our good habits and make them a natural part of our day.
We need routines for our mornings, our lunch breaks, and even our evenings.
The OVB team shared some great tips for creating effective routines, like using your commute time for journaling or planning, taking your dog for a walk during your lunch break, or finishing one more small task at the end of the day to create a sense of accomplishment.
I love those ideas. And the Calm blog had some really comprehensive suggestions for morning, workday, and evening routines.
They really emphasize the importance of aligning your routines with your natural energy cycles, taking frequent breaks, and practicing good sleep hygiene.
So it's not just about cramming in as much as possible, it's about working smarter, not harder.
And of course, implementing new routines can be challenging. It takes time and effort to make those new habits stick.
Totally. But the benefits are so worth it. When you have solid routines in place, you feel more organized, more productive, and less stressed.
It's like you're setting yourself up for success on autopilot.
Now, as we wrap up this deep dive, remember that enhancing your productivity is a personal journey. What works for one person might not work for another.
It's all about experimenting, finding what resonates with you, and customizing your approach.
And keep in mind that it's the small, consistent habits that really make a difference over time.
So don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight. Start with one or two small changes and build from there.
Now, here's a final thought for you to ponder as you go about your day. What's one productivity habit that you could implement consistently starting tomorrow that you think would have the biggest positive impact on your work life?
It's a great question to reflect on. And remember, even small changes can lead to big results over time.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into productivity. We hope you found it helpful.
It was a pleasure exploring these strategies with you.
Until next time, stay productive.
And stay awesome.